The wind howled across the dunes of Xyrus, seven like a chorus of forgotten ghosts, dragging veils of red sand over the bones of 1,000 dead wars. Among the scattered wreckage of dropships and shattered mechs, a lone figure trudged forward, boots sinking into the ash-laced earth with every step. His name was Riven, just Riven, and he wore the tattered remnants of a coalition infantry uniform, its insignia long since burned away by plasma fire and time. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, and his canteen had run dry somewhere near the ruins of Outpost Theta. But none of that mattered now. Not when he saw her. She stood in the center of the desert graveyard, barefoot on scorched stone, surrounded by obelisks carved with glyphs no human had ever deciphered. Her skin shimmered a deep emerald under the twin suns, and her hair, long, silken, and bone-white, rippled like smoke caught in slow motion. She wasn't human, but she wasn't monstrous either. There was grace in her stillness, sorrow in the tilt of her chin, and something ancient in the way her eyes, golden and slit-pupiled like a desert cat's, watched him approach. Around her wrists coiled thin bands of living metal, pulsing faintly with a soft blue light. Riven knew what those were. Bond cuffs, used by the Varelian Dominion to leash their own kind when they went feral or rebellious, or when they were prisoners. He stopped 10 paces away, raising his hands slowly. "I'm not here to fight," he said, voice hoarse from thirst and disuse. The alien woman didn't flinch. "One more touch," she warned, her voice low and resonant, like wind through hollow stone. "And you'll get buried here." Riven almost laughed. Almost. He'd already buried half his squad in this wasteland. Burial wasn't exactly a threat anymore. It was a promise of rest. But he didn't say that. Instead, he took one slow step forward. Then another. She tensed, her fingers curling into fists. The blue light in her cuffs flared brighter. "I mean it," she hissed. "My blood is poison to your kind. One drop on your skin, one breath too close, and your organs will turn to sludge before you hit the ground." Riven stopped again, but only because his legs were shaking. Not from fear, though there was plenty of that, but from exhaustion, from grief, from the sheer absurdity of standing before a creature who could kill him with a kiss and still looking at her like she was the only thing worth seeing in this godforsaken system. "You're Lysara," he said quietly. Her eyes narrowed. "You know my name. I heard it on the Dominion comm chatter. They've been hunting you for weeks. Said you stole something important." She scoffed, a dry, bitter sound. "I didn't steal it. I liberated it." She glanced toward a small satchel at her hip, its surface woven from biofiber that shimmered faintly in the heat. "It's the heart seed of Varelia, last of its kind. They wanted to weaponize it, turn it into a plague that could rewrite human DNA on contact, wipe out entire colonies in hours." Riven swallowed hard. "And you're protecting it?" "I'm returning it," she corrected, "to the silent grove on Viral Prime. But my ship was shot down over this cursed rock. Now I'm stranded. And you?" She studied him, head tilting slightly. "You're the one they call the Ghost of Xyrus, the human who survived the siege of Black Hollow, the one who dragged 17 wounded out of a burning medbay while Dominion snipers picked off everyone else." Riven looked away. "I left more behind than I saved." "But you tried," she said softly. "That's rare, even among my own." A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the whisper of sand and the distant groan of collapsing metal. Then, without warning, alarms blared in the distance. Sharp, electronic shrieks cutting through the desert calm. Lysara's golden eyes snapped toward the horizon. Dust clouds rose in the east. Fast-moving. Vehicles. Dominion skimmers. "They found me," she whispered. Riven didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, grabbing her arm before she could protest. Her skin was cool to the touch, smooth as polished jade, and for a terrifying second, he expected his hand to blister, his veins to blacken. But nothing happened. She gasped, more in shock than pain. "Why aren't you dying?" she demanded. "I don't know," he admitted, already pulling her toward a half-buried wreck of a coalition APC. "Maybe your poison doesn't work on ghosts." She yanked free but followed him anyway, her bare feet silent on the cracked earth. They dove into the shadowed belly of the ruined vehicle just as the first skimmer roared overhead, its searchlights slicing through the dust like blades. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of burnt wiring and old blood. Riven crouched low, peering through a shattered viewport. 3 skimmers, at least a dozen Dominion troopers, tall, armored in obsidian carapace, faces hidden behind respirators that hissed with every breath. Lasara pressed herself against the far wall, clutching the satchel to her chest. They'll scan for life signs, for heat, for biosignatures. We can't stay here. We don't have a choice, Riven said. Unless you've got a teleporter in that bag. She gave him a look that was equal parts exasperation and reluctant amusement. If I did, do you think I'd be stuck in a graveyard with a half-dead human who ignores death threats? He grinned, despite everything. Guess not. Outside, boots crunched on gravel. Orders were barked in the guttural tongue of the Dominion. Riven reached for the pulse pistol at his hip, nearly empty, one mag left, and braced himself. But Lasara placed a hand on his wrist. Her touch was firm, deliberate. Wait, she murmured. Then she closed her eyes. First, nothing happened. Then the air around them began to shimmer. Not like heat haze, but like reality itself was bending. The temperature dropped. The sounds outside grew muffled, distant. Riven blinked. The walls of the APC seemed to blur, then fade, as if they were becoming ghosts themselves. What are you doing? He whispered. Veil weaving, she said, eyes still shut. An old Varelian art. It bends light, sound, even scent. But it's draining. And I'm weak. He watched in awe as the Dominion troopers passed within meters of their hiding spot, scanning, shouting, kicking over debris, yet never once glancing their way. One even leaned against the APC's hull. His armored back pressing against the very metal Riven was touching. Riven held his breath. Lasara's face was pale now, sweat beading on her green brow. The blue light in her cuffs flickered erratically. When the troopers finally moved on, she collapsed against the wall, panting. Riven caught her before she hit the floor. Again, no poison, no burning pain, just the weight of her body, slight but strong, trembling in his arms. Why aren't you affected? She asked again, voice weaker this time. Riven thought about it. Maybe because I've already died a little, he said. Out here, in this war. Maybe your poison only works on the living. She let out a breath that might have been a laugh, if it weren't so tired. Or maybe, she said, looking up at him with those golden eyes. You're just different. They stayed in the wreck until night fell. The twin moons of Xyrus 7 rose, one silver, one blood-red, casting long, eerie shadows across the graveyard. Riven shared the last of his rations. A protein bar so hard it could double as a weapon. Lasara nibbled it cautiously, then made a face that was almost comically disgusted. This tastes like irradiated fungus, she said. It is irradiated fungus, he admitted. Standard issue. She groaned, but ate it anyway. Your species has a strange relationship with suffering. And yours with dramatic warnings, he shot back. One more touch and you'll get buried here. Real subtle. She rolled her eyes, but there was no real anger in it. I meant it. My biochemistry is lethal to most oxygen breathers, especially humans. Our ancestors evolved alongside spore plagues that could melt bone. We adapted. You didn't. Yet here I am, Riven said, holding up his hand. Still breathing, still annoying you. She studied him for a long moment. Perhaps your body has developed a resistance. Or perhaps... She trailed off, then shook her head. No, it's impossible. What? The legends say that when a Varelian and a human share true empathy, real, unguarded connection, the poison neutralizes. But that's just myth. Propaganda from the Unity era before the wars. Riven raised an eyebrow. So you're saying I'm empathetic? She snorted. Don't flatter yourself. You're reckless, stubborn, and probably insane. And yet you haven't killed me. Yet, she emphasized, but her lips twitched. As the night deepened, they talked. Not about war, not about the heartseed, but about smaller things. Riven told her about Earth, real Earth, not the propaganda version. About oceans so vast they made deserts look small. About cities that glowed like constellations. About his little sister who used to send him hand-drawn comics from the orbital academies. Lasara spoke of Varelia's crystal forests, where trees sang in harmonic resonance, and of the sky dancers who leapt from floating islands with wings made of light. For a few hours, the graveyard didn't feel like a tomb. It felt like a place where two lost souls could pretend, just for a while, that they weren't alone. But dawn came too soon. With the first light, the Dominion returned, not with skimmers, but with a full strike team and a bioscanner drone humming ominously overhead. They'd triangulated Lasara's energy signature from the veil weaving. There was no hiding now. We have to run, Riven said, already moving. Run where? She asked, but she was on her feet, satchel secured. To the Canyon of Whispers, he said. It's 10 clicks west. Narrow passages, blind turns. Perfect for ambushes. You've been there. Buried a friend there, he said grimly. His name was Joran. Good man. Bad luck. They ran. Sand stung their eyes. The heat pressed down like a furnace lid, and every breath burned. Behind them, the drone's whine grew louder. Then gunfire. Plasma bolts seared the air, exploding dunes into molten glass. Riven shoved Lysara behind a rock, returning fire with his pistol. 2 shots left. He missed both. We're not gonna make it, he panted. Lysara looked at him, then at the satchel. Then she made a decision. She ripped the cuffs from her wrists. Blood, deep violet, trickled down her arms. The moment the metal bands hit the sand, they dissolved into ash. Riven stared. What did you just do? Broke my leash, she said, and unleashed the last of my bond energy. She turned to him, eyes blazing. Hold my hand. Don't let go. No matter what. Before he could ask why, she grabbed his palm and squeezed. Power surged through him, not pain but raw electric life. His vision sharpened. His muscles burned with sudden strength. The world slowed. Around them, the air crackled with emerald energy. Lysara's white hair lifted as if underwater, and her skin glowed faintly. What is this? He gasped. A resonance bond, she said. Temporary, dangerous, but it'll let us move faster than their sensors can track. And move they did. They became a blur, dashing between rocks, leaping over crevices, vanishing into mirages. The Dominion fired wildly, but they were chasing ghosts again. Riven felt every heartbeat of Lysara's, every breath, as if their bodies had merged into one rhythm. It was terrifying, exhilarating, intimate in a way he'd never known. They reached the canyon just as the suns reached their zenith. The entrance was a jagged slit in the earth, barely wide enough for one person. Inside, the walls rose hundreds of meters, striated with minerals that shimmered like frozen lightning. The air was cooler here, quieter, but not safe. They'll follow, Lysara said, leaning against the wall, exhausted. The glow in her skin had faded. And this canyon, it's unstable. One wrong step and the whole thing could collapse. Riven nodded, scanning the path ahead. Then we don't take wrong steps. They moved deeper, the canyon twisting like a serpent's spine. At one point, they had to cross a narrow stone bridge over a chasm so deep it seemed to swallow sound. Halfway across, the bridge cracked. Riven grabbed Lysara's hand, instinctively, and pulled her to solid ground just as the span crumbled into dust. She looked at him, breathless. You keep doing that. Doing what? Saving me. He shrugged. Someone's gotta. She didn't reply, but her fingers lingered in his a moment longer than necessary. Hours passed. The canyon opened into a wider basin, ringed by towering spires of black rock. In the center stood a strange structure, a ring of standing stones, each carved with the same glyphs from the graveyard. At its heart pulsed a soft, green light. Lysara froze. The anchor stones, she whispered. I thought they were destroyed. What are they? A gateway, she said, stepping forward reverently. Not physical, spiritual. The Varelians used them to commune with the planet's core consciousness. If I can activate it, I might be able to send the Heartseed home without leaving Xyrus. But you'd have to stay, Riven realized. She nodded. The ritual requires a life anchor. My life. No, he said instantly. There's another way. There isn't, she said gently. The Dominion is closing in. Even if we escaped, they'd hunt us across the quadrant. But if the Heartseed returns, the weapon dies with it. Billions live. Riven's chest tightened. He'd seen too many sacrifices. Too many good people turn to ash for the greater good. He wasn't letting it happen again. Before she could step into the circle, he grabbed her shoulders and kissed her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't planned. It was desperate, clumsy, and utterly human. Her lips were cool, soft, and for one heart-stopping second, he braced for death. But nothing happened. She pulled back, stunned. You idiot, she breathed. You could have died. But I didn't, he said, grinning weakly. Which means the myth was true. Empathy neutralizes the poison. And I care about you, Lysara. More than I should. More than makes sense. Tears, clear, not violet, welled in her golden eyes. Riven. A distant explosion shook the basin. The Dominion had found the entrance. "No more goodbyes," he said, taking her hand again. "We do this together." She hesitated, then nodded. Together, they stepped into the circle of stones. Lasara opened the satchel. The heart seed floated out, a pulsing orb of emerald light, no bigger than a fist, humming with ancient power. She placed her hands on it, chanting in her native tongue. The ground trembled. Light erupted from the stones, spiraling upward into a vortex of energy. But then pain. Lasara cried out, falling to her knees. Black veins spread across her arms. The bond cuffs. They left a trace toxin. It's reacting with the ritual. Riven didn't think. He knelt beside her, placing his hands over hers on the heart seed. "Then share it with me," he said. "All of it." "What? No. You'll do it." She met his eyes, saw the resolve, and let go. Agony tore through him, white-hot, searing, like every nerve was on fire. He screamed, but didn't let go. The heart seed flared brighter. The vortex widened. Above them, the sky split open, revealing a swirling portal of stars. And through it, Dominion warships descended. But it was too late. With a final surge of energy, the heart seed shot upward, vanishing into the portal just as the first plasma barrage struck the basin. The explosion threw Riven and Lasara apart. Stone rained down. Fire bloomed across the canyon. Riven crawled through the smoke, coughing, bleeding. "Lasara!" He found her beneath a fallen slab, half buried, but alive. Her skin was pale, her breath shallow, but her eyes opened when he touched her face. "You're still breathing," she whispered. "So are you," he said, helping her up. Around them, the canyon collapsed. But ahead, through the dust and fire, a narrow path led upward, toward the rim, toward freedom. The Dominion would keep hunting. The war wasn't over, but the heartseed was safe, and they were alive. Hand in hand, bleeding but unbroken, they climbed toward the light. The climb out of the canyon of whispers should have killed them. Jagged rock tore at Riven's arms, and Lasara's bare feet left smears of violet blood on the stone. But neither slowed. Behind them, the basin collapsed in a thunderous roar, swallowing the anchor stones, and any trace of the heartseed's departure, beneath tons of molten rock. The Dominion warships circled overhead like vultures denied a meal, their searchlights stabbing through the dust-choked air. But Riven and Lasara were already gone, slipping into the labyrinth of fissures that webbed the northern plateau. They found temporary shelter in the hollowed-out husk of a downed scout drone, its alloy shell scorched black but still intact. Inside, Lasara slumped against the curved wall, her breath shallow, her skin duller than before. Riven pressed a strip of torn fabric to the gash on her leg, his hands steady despite the tremor in his own limbs. The pain from the ritual still echoed in his bones, a dull ache that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. "You shouldn't have shared the toxin," she murmured, watching him with tired eyes. "You could have died." "You keep saying that," he said, tying off the bandage. "And yet here I am, annoying you." She almost smiled. Almost. But then her expression hardened. "Something's wrong." Riven froze. "What?" "The bond," she whispered. "It's still active." He frowned. "I thought it faded after the canyon." "It should have. But I can still feel you. Your thoughts. Your fear." She closed her eyes, concentrating. "And something else. A signal. Buried deep in your neural pattern." Riven's blood ran cold. "What kind of signal?" Before she could answer, the drone's outer shell groaned. Not from wind, from pressure. Something was prying it open. Riven grabbed his pistol, 3 rounds left, and pressed himself against the wall. Lasara rose silently, her fingers curling into claws, the last of her energy coiling like a spring. The hatch tore free with a shriek of metal. But it wasn't Dominion armor that filled the opening. It was a woman, human, tall, clad in a sleek black exosuit lined with silver circuitry. Her face was sharp, her eyes calculating, and in her hand she held a neural disruptor humming with lethal charge. Behind her stood 2 more figures, equally armored, equally silent. "Riven," she said, voice smooth as polished steel. "Long time no see." Recognition hit him like a plasma bolt. "Commander Vera." Lasara tensed. "You know her?" "Used to," Riven said grimly. "She ran Black Ops for the Coalition before vanishing 2 years ago." declared dead after a mission on Cygnus 9. Vera stepped inside, ignoring Lysara completely. Not dead, just reassigned to a higher priority. Her gaze flicked to Lysara. And you must be the Varelian fugitive, Lysara of the Silent Grove. Or should I say, traitor? Lysara bared her teeth. I saved your species from annihilation. That's not treason. That's mercy. Vera laughed. A cold, hollow sound. Mercy? You stole a bioweapon prototype and fled across 3 systems. The Dominion offered us a truce in exchange for your head. A truce that would have ended the war. The truce was a lie, Riven snapped. They were buying time to finish the Heartseed weapon. You knew that. I knew my orders, Vera said flatly. Then her eyes softened, just slightly. But I also knew you'd never let her die. So I let you run. Gave you a head start. And now, she tapped a device on her wrist. I've tracked the residual energy from the ritual. The Heartseed's gone. Hasn't it? Riven didn't answer. Vera sighed. Good. Because if it hadn't been, I'd have to kill you both. Lysara narrowed her eyes. Why? If the Coalition wanted the Heartseed destroyed, why send you after us now? Because the Coalition doesn't know I'm here, Vera said. I'm not with them anymore. I work for the Concord, a shadow council of scientists, diplomats, and defectors from both sides. We've been trying to end this war without genocide. And you too. You just handed us our best chance. Riven stared at her, suspicion warring with hope. Prove it. Vera reached into her suit and pulled out a small data chip. This contains proof that the Dominion High Command planned to betray the truce. They were going to release the Heartseed Plague during the Peace Summit on Helios Prime. Millions would have died. But now, she looked at Lysara. Now the weapon is gone, and we have leverage. Lysara studied her for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. What do you need from us? Sanctuary, Vera said. And testimony. The Concord has a hidden base on the ice moon of Kalos 9. Neutral ground. Safe. But getting there won't be easy. The Dominion's hunting you. The Coalition thinks you're rogue. And there's something else. She hesitated. What? Riven asked. The signal I detected in your mind, Riven, it's not natural. It's a neural implant. Covert. Probably placed during your recovery after Black Hollow. Riven's stomach dropped. I was in a medbay for 3 weeks. They said it was standard neural calibration. It wasn't, Vera said. It's a Dominion tracer. They've been using you to track Lysara this whole time. Silence. Lysara turned to Riven, her expression unreadable. All this time, you led them to me? No, he said, voice raw. I didn't know. But you did, she whispered. Even if your mind didn't, your body did. He wanted to argue, to deny it, but the truth sat heavy in his chest. Every near miss, every close call, they hadn't been luck. They'd been herded, guided, like prey in a trap. Vera stepped forward. We can remove the implant, but it's deep, risky, and we have to do it fast. The Dominion's already triangulating your last known position. Riven looked at Lysara. Do you trust me? She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, I trusted you when you kissed me in a collapsing canyon. I'll trust you now. Vera activated a cloaking field around the drone. Then we move in 10 minutes. But there's one more thing. She turned to Lysara. The resonance bond you formed with Riven, it didn't just neutralize your toxin. It rewrote part of his DNA. Temporarily. But if the implant interacts with those changes, it could trigger a cascade failure. In both of you, Lysara's eyes widened. Then we can't separate. Not until the implant's out. Exactly, Vera said. You're linked. Biologically. Emotionally. If one of you dies, the other follows, Riven finished. The weight of it settled over them. Not as a curse, but as a strange, terrifying intimacy. They weren't just allies anymore. They were bound. Under Vera's guidance, they traveled by night, using stolen skimmer parts and Vera's encrypted comms to avoid patrols. The journey to the extraction point, a derelict freighter buried in a salt flat, was a gauntlet of near disasters. Once, a Dominion patrol passed so close Riven could hear the hiss of their respirators. Another time, a sandstorm forced them to take shelter in a collapsed tunnel, where Lysara used the last of her veil weaving to mask their heat signatures while Riven held her trembling body close, feeling every shiver as if it were his own. On the third night, the implant flared. Riven collapsed without warning, convulsing, blood trickling from his nose. Lysara screamed his name, clutching his head as visions flooded her mind. Dominion labs, screaming prisoners, a chamber where human and Varelian DNA were fused in grotesque experiments. The implant wasn't just a tracker. It was a memory vault, and it was waking up. Vera sedated him just in time. "We're out of time," she said, her voice tight. "The freighter's prepped. But if we don't remove that thing now, it'll broadcast our location to every Dominion ship in the sector." In the belly of the rusted freighter, beneath flickering emergency lights, Vera performed the surgery with trembling hands. Lasara held Rivens, her own energy flowing into him to stabilize his vitals. The procedure took hours. When it was done, Vera held up a tiny, pulsing shard of black crystal, etched with Dominion glyphs. "It's more than a tracer," she whispered. "It's a seed, prototype. They were testing it on you to see if they could create hybrid soldiers. Human bodies with Varelian resilience." Lasara stared at the shard, horrified. "They wanted to make an army like us." "No," Riven said weakly from the cot. "They wanted to make an army that could kill people like you." Vera sealed the shard in a lead-lined case. "This changes everything. With this evidence, the Concord can expose the Dominion's black projects. Maybe even force a real ceasefire." But as the freighter lifted off, tearing through Xyrus 7's crimson sky, a new alarm blared on the bridge. Unidentified vessel approaching at high velocity. The pilot, a grizzled ex-smuggler named Tarn, called out. "No transponder. Weapons hot." On the view screen, a sleek, obsidian ship emerged from the asteroid belt, its hull shaped like a scythe. Dominion insignia glowed along its wings, but something was off. The design was older, forbidden. Lasara went pale. "The Revenant class. They haven't used those since the purge of Varelia." "Who's flying it?" Riven asked. Lasara's voice dropped to a whisper. "My brother." Silence fell over the bridge. "You have a brother?" Riven asked. "Had," she corrected. "Kalen was executed for treason after he tried to stop the Heartseed project. Or so I was told." Vera cursed. "They must have revived him. Cybernetically. He's a revenant. Part machine, part memory, all rage." The revenant ship opened fire. The freighter shuddered, alarms screaming. Shields buckled. Tarn wrestled the controls, diving into the asteroid field, but the revenant followed like a shadow. Lasara stood, her white hair lifting as energy crackled around her. "I have to face him." "No," Riven said, struggling to his feet. "You're not doing this alone. I'm the only one who can," she said, turning to him. "He's my blood, my failure, my responsibility. And I'm your bond," Riven shot back. "Which means it's my responsibility too." Before she could argue, he kissed her, quick, fierce, desperate. "We finish this together." Vera nodded grimly. "Tarn, plot an intercept course. We're not running anymore." The battle was chaos. Asteroids exploded under plasma fire. The freighter's hull groaned under strain. But Riven and Lasara stood side by side on the bridge, hands clasped, hearts beating as one. When the revenant ship finally docked, tearing through the freighter's bay doors, Kalen emerged, not as a man, but as a nightmare. Half his face was smooth green skin, the other half a lattice of black metal, his eye glowing red, his voice a distorted echo of the brother Lasara once knew. "Sister," he rasped, "you stole what was ours." "I saved what was sacred," she replied. He lunged, but Riven was faster. He tackled Kalen to the deck, the two of them crashing through crates and conduits. Metal met flesh. Blood, red and violet, splattered the walls. Lasara joined the fray, her movements fluid, precise, but every strike pained her. This was still her brother. In the end, it wasn't strength that won, it was memory. Lasara pressed her palm to Kalen's chest, right over the mechanical heart. "Do you remember the sky dancers?" she whispered. "You used to carry me on your shoulders so I could touch the light wings." For a moment the red eye flickered. The metal stilled. "I remember," Kalen breathed. Then he grabbed her hand and ripped the neural shard from his own chest, revealing the truth. He'd been carrying a copy of the Heartseed's core code. "Take it," he gasped. "Finish what I started." His body collapsed, the machines powering down. Silence. Riven helped Lasara to her feet. She clutched the shard, tears streaming down her face. Outside, the Dominion fleet arrived, dozens of ships, weapons charged. But Vera was already broadcasting. Using Kalen's shard, she transmitted everything, the truth about the heartseed, the implants, the hybrid experiments, to every channel in the quadrant. To the Coalition. To the Dominion dissenters. To the galaxy. The war didn't end that day. But it changed. As the freighter jumped to hyperspace, leaving Xyrus 7 behind, Riven and Lysara stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur into streaks of light. Their hands were still joined. Their bond still hummed between them, not as a curse, but as a promise. One more touch, she had warned. And yet he had embraced her. Not because he was reckless, but because some things, some people are worth burying yourself for. The freighter emerged from hyperspace above Kalos 9, its icy surface glittering like shattered glass under a pale blue sun. Below, the Concorde's hidden base pulsed with quiet life. Domes of reinforced crystal nestled between glacial ridges, shielded from scanners and war alike. Riven and Lysara stood side by side on the observation deck, their breaths fogging the cold glass, hands still entwined as if letting go might unravel the fragile miracle they'd survived. Vera met them at the airlock, her usual steel softened by something close to awe. "The broadcast worked," she said. "Fleets are standing down across 3 sectors. The Dominion High Command is fractured, half denouncing the experiments, the other half in hiding. The Coalition's calling for peace talks." She looked at Lysara. "You're not a fugitive anymore. You're a witness, a hero." Lysara shook her head. "I just wanted to protect something beautiful." "And you did," Riven said softly. In the weeks that followed, the neural bond between them didn't fade. It evolved. No longer a desperate tether, it became a quiet harmony, a shared rhythm that let them feel each other's joy as clearly as their pain. Scientists studied it, mystics wrote poems about it, but they never explained it. Some things, they decided, were meant to be lived, not dissected. Kalen's final gift, the Heartseed Code, was used not as a weapon, but as a cure. Concorde biologists fused it with human and Varelian DNA to create a regenerative serum, healing radiation scars, reversing neural decay, even mending broken ecosystems on war-torn worlds. The very thing meant to destroy became a bridge. Riven, once a ghost haunting battlefields, found purpose in training peacekeepers, soldiers who protected, not conquered. Lysara, no longer exiled, returned to Varelia not as a princess, but as a teacher, rebuilding the silent grove with children of both species playing beneath singing trees. They didn't marry in any traditional sense. No rings, no vows, but every morning, without fail, Riven would find Lysara waiting for him on the glacier's edge, her white hair catching the dawn light, her emerald skin warm against the cold. And every night, they'd sit beneath twin moons, sharing stories, silence, and the quiet certainty that they'd chosen each other. Again and again, even when the universe demanded otherwise. Years later, when the first hybrid child, human and Varelian, with golden eyes and sun-brown skin, was born in the grove, Riven held her in his arms while Lysara wept tears of violet joy. "She's ours," Lysara whispered. "No," Riven corrected gently. "She's everyone's." A promise kept. The war never fully vanished. Old wounds take generations to heal, but it no longer defined them. In its place grew something rarer, trust, curiosity, laughter echoing across species lines. And in a small dwelling on the edge of a singing forest, a human and an alien woman built a life not in spite of their differences, but because of them. One more touch, she had warned, and he had embraced her, not to defy death but to choose life, together.